Welcome back to the Cover 2 Zone. Post the NFL draft in 2025, we are reviewing some of our steals and our reaches of the draft. Starting with you, Eden, who is your steal of the draft?
My steal of the draft is Mike Green in the second round to the Ravens. Absolute steal, man. Clearly, premier position, led the nation in sacks. Yeah, character and legal concerns are there, but in terms of talent, they got a fantastic player this late in the draft. I just think if his production translates to the NFL, if you can get a defensive end that gets you 15 plus sacks in the NFL in the late second round, that's just a steal, absolute steal. Hopefully he stays safe off the field. I obviously don't agree with his off the field decision making, but if that stuff all gets cleared, they've got a premier edge rusher in the late second. And I kind of had the Ravens as to combine just getting Malachi Starks at the end of the first to pair with Kyle Hamilton. That defense has just always got pieces, just really good pieces from winning SEC programs, and I really like what the Ravens did. Kyle Hamilton and Malachi Starks in a cover 2. Imagine. That's tasty. But yeah, Mike Green is the main steal. I know you're probably thinking, oh, legal concerns, but put that aside. The guy gets after the quarterback.
But there's no question he's a first round talent, and getting him in the second round is a steal in terms of talent, no question. But those off-field concerns are real, and it's not just like Jalen Carter like a year ago where he was involved in some drag racing like a couple of years ago, and there was questions about maturity. This is actually I don't know too much about it, about what's going on. I know it's 2 sexual assault allegations, I believe. I don't know what stage they're at in that allegation process, that legal process. But I think there is a chance, from what I've read, that this does come back to he will have to face court potentially for this. So there is a real chance that he is in serious legal trouble. And obviously, if he is, that's not only going to warrant a suspension from the league, but possibly custodial time and all of that as well. What I will say is that the Ravens are a very, very well-run franchise, and I don't think John Harbaugh would have taken this risk if he wasn't certain.
For sure.
I do believe that the Ravens have done their due diligence on this. So, you have to kind of trust that John Harbaugh and the Ravens have done their homework on this guy, and they know that that's a very unlikely scenario that he's not going to play for them. And in terms of, John Harbaugh's got a great reputation of instilling discipline in his team and having discipline in his team. So these guys who have got a bit of a sketchy character, he's one of the best coaches in the NFL for taking on those guys and really focusing them on football. So in terms of that and his talent, it is an absolute steal, but you cannot ignore these allegations.
No, completely agree. Like you said, Ravens so well run. Surely they've looked into it. And it's not just it still could come back to bite them, but it's the end of the second round. So whatever it is you've potentially missed out on a late second, or you've got a first round talent in the late second, like early first round talent. Like this guy, the sack leader, like for Marshall, he's a dog.
My steal of the draft is Emeka Egbuka, the wide receiver that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers took in the first round at pick 19. I think this is a brilliant pick. They talk about Mike Evans getting old, Chris Godwin getting a bit old, getting injuries, and a lot of people have been saying this is you've just signed another Chris Godwin on a rookie contract, basically. He, I believe he was the leading pass he's got the record at Ohio State for the most pass receptions in school history. And when I was watching on draft night or watching the post-draft coverage from the analysts, they were saying about some teams had interviewed this guy, including Tampa Bay, and said he's the most impressive interview they've ever had. So he is a day one character guy who is just locked in on football. There's totally the opposite to Mike Green, where there's going to be no character concerns whatsoever, which I always love in a draft pick. He's a great route runner. He gets in between coverages. He can get in between zone coverages. He's got a good pair of hands. He's a good slot receiver. And I really, really like this pick for the Buccaneers in adding to the talent that they already have and thinking about the future and replacing those, because their offense is great. You know, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and now Emeka Ibuka. Like that's a really, really nice
K. Dalton as well.
Yeah. K. Dalton as well. That's a really, really nice trio of receivers and tight ends. And I think, yeah, I all the stuff I heard about this guy, a lot of NFL analysts had him a lot higher on their boards. Some had him as a top 10 receiver, as a top 10 player, on their boards. A lot for his character as well, and the fact that he interviewed so well and he's so impressive. So I really, really like this pick.
Yeah. That division is up for grabs, and they've just given Baker another piece, and that offense will cook again. So great pick.
And moving on to our reaches of the draft, Eden, who's your biggest reach of the draft?
It's kind of a follow-on from our last video, but I just think it was such a bad pick. Shamar Stewart. Just the production's not there. 4.5 career sacks. Could be very good long-term. I also really didn't like when he was picked. It was this very weird interview and reaction. I don't know if you remember it. Where he's like acting like he's just gotten like slept on and been done dirty. It's like, you've just become a multi-millionaire. Why are you not happy right now? The Bengals just drafted you and everyone else thinks you're a reach. So why do you think you've been slept on at pick, 17 or something like that? Like, it's just a really weird reaction. I guess because everyone's calling him a reach, I guess it's true that he is slept on, I suppose. But yeah, 4.5 career sacks. They're losing Hendrickson. They need the production, and he's not going to get that in his first year. Realistically, he needs to be coached up. Great talent, but no production. So big reach for me.
Mine is it's a bit harsh on the individual himself. It's more of the team's kind of draft strategy. I've gone for Mason Graham. I think Mason Graham's a really, really good player. But then the Browns obviously trade down out of the spot where they could have taken Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter. And Mason Graham's a good player, but there is a lot of concerns about his size. He's a bit of an undersized defensive tackle. Moves really well. Don't get me wrong. He's powerful enough. He was really good at Michigan, and some of his pass rush moves are really good. His speed off the ball is good, but in the NFL, you know, being undersized as a defensive tackle can come back to bite you. And
the only exception is Aaron Donald. That is the only exception. And people will refer to that with that pick, but you're spot on. Sure. You are spot on.
He's been. I'm looking on ESPN. He's been compared to Christian Wilkins, which I think Christian Wilkins is bigger than Mason Graham. I don't know the measurables itself, but and obviously Christian Wilkins has just got that high motor as well. Again, it's more of the Browns' draft strategy of trading down out of that pick, and I think there probably were better picks at number 5 maybe than Mason Graham. Other areas to address for them as well, rather than, I mean, they got Myles Garrett, they got the best defensive player in the league, and yes, it's great to give him a partner, so that they might be looking to free him up a little bit and whatever with this pick of Mason Graham. But then later on down the draft, go and draft Dylan Gabriel and then Shador, leaving you with 5 quarterbacks in your quarterback room. We got Shador, Gabriel, Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco, and Deshaun Watson. Obviously, Deshaun Watson injured at the moment. It's a strange one. I don't know where they're going to go with that, because realistically, you've got 5 QBs there who could start really in some way, and you can't keep 5 QBs on your 53-man roster going into the season. So where the Browns are going to go with that, I do not know. But yeah, I didn't love their overall strategy. I know it's split opinion amongst the NFL community with what they did, and maybe they just took Shador because he did fall to the 7th. And we talked about the Steelers. Why didn't they pick him up and take a risk? Maybe that's what the Browns are doing, and I get that, but I think it has left them in a tough spot where you go into season with 5 quarterbacks and nobody really knows who's going to be the starter. Nobody really knows what's going on. And then you trade down out of that spot to get generational talent like Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, who would have been a better pick than Mason Graham, I think. And I just think as well, there were better picks at number 5. Again, not saying Graham is a bad player at all, but I just think the overall strategy wasn't really what I expected from the Browns.
Graham was the drop-off, and arguably actually Will Campbell was the drop-off. Cam Ward is quarterback, so the first pick, no doubt, and then it was Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter, and they were up here, and then it was a drop-off. Will Campbell could be up there. That's up for debate.
He was clearly the best offensive lineman in the draft. So
and then Mason Graham, production's there, high motor, but undersized. Yeah, you go, oh well, Aaron Donald, but that it's just you look at trends and you go, you need to be big to play D-line in the NFL. There are exceptions. And yeah, I agree. I mean, arguably, I know you're not super high on Genti, but maybe taking Genti at 5, alleviate all the pressure from those 5 quarterbacks or whatever. Just hand the ball off, let your defense win games, get good field position, and finish 8-8 or whatever. Maybe, just get the stink out the building as well. Yeah.
And with the injuries that Nick Chubb has had in the last few, I love Nick Chubb, but he's on the decline with these injuries. His age is getting up there, and Jerome Ford's decent, but I don't think he needs a 1-2 punch, right? And as you said, if they'd taken Genti, it would have added another offensive. And if they had been rumored to take Genti as well, that would have caused a lot of teams down the order who wanted him, like the Raiders, might have phoned up the Browns and gone, what do you want for him? And it might have led to even more draft capital for the Browns, potentially. Yeah. So, I don't want to say that Mason Graham himself is a bust or
he's a good player. The strategy is poor.
Yeah, I agree. And
what their defense was elite last year. Such a good defense. You need someone like Genti to come in and just hand him the ball 25 times a game and hope to win a few games, rather than
take the pressure off the whoever is going to be that quarterback, because whoever gets that starting job, there's going to be a huge amount of pressure on those shoulders, because you've got, however, whichever way they go, I assume they'll trim down to 3 by the time that we get to the season. 2 of those guys are going to lose out in at the cut stage, and whoever is in that quarterback position is going to be looking over their shoulder, because it's going to be a 5-way split in OTAs.
Surely you cut Pickett and Watson and just roll into the season with the 2 rookie quarterbacks competing, and then Joe Flacco as that bridge quarterback veteran that they can learn off. That makes sense to me. But then if you're doing that, take an offensive piece, like to get some help. Who are they throwing to? Jerry Jeudy?
Yeah.
Who's like solid? Who's the running back? Jerome Ford?
Jerome Ford. David Njoku's a good tight end. But again, injuries with him as well. Can they afford to move on from Deshaun? I mean, is that contract? There's so much.
Just get the stink out the building. Just get it out the building, man.
There's so much guaranteed money in that contract that
you bring in more stink anyway with the Shador situation, which is just like,
Yeah, I think
I like Shador. I don't dislike Shador, but to the Browns is the worst situation he could. You are going to a losing culture, and just I just would have liked it. He fell. It would have been nice to see him fall to a good team. So tough for the kid.
Because you're exactly right. We talked about the Steelers earlier and whether they were going to take him, and there's a huge difference between if Shador had gone to an organization like the Steelers and whether he goes to the Browns, right? And as you said, when he falls, like if you're a Cam Ward, if you're a Caleb Williams from last year, you know you're going to be a number one pick or at least in the top three. You know you're going to a bad team. That's just the way the draft works. But when you fall like that, you are open season to every team then. And you're potentially, it's potentially better for you because you're falling into a better situation potentially than, okay, you get the clout of going in the top three, but you're going to Tennessee, you're going to Chicago, who are terrible, you're going to Carolina in Bryce Young's case. It's almost better if you're Shador Sanders to fall. I know he took it really, really tough. And, when you fall to the 7th round, obviously that's going to be...
I think it was 5th round.
Oh, 5th round, sorry. Yeah. That's going to be tough. But it's almost better because you can go to any franchise then, and it still ended up on the Browns. And it's just
I know this is like really granular, but think about reps at practice.
Yeah.
You're splitting reps between 5 quarterbacks, and then they have to go into the season, into preseason, playing against teams that have had far more reps under their belt. It's just a calamity in terms of team structure, team building. I don't get it really at all. And I think Dylan Gabriel's probably sitting there like, why pick me round 3 if you're going to follow up and pick Shador round 5?
Yeah, you have to feel for him because everyone's talking about Shador.
And he loses out on those reps, I guess. Yeah, because you're going to have to give Shador reps. Like, doesn't really make sense.
It doesn't, no. But that will round off our steals and reaches of the 2025 draft. Cannot wait for the start of the NFL season now and all of the training camps and everything coming up. We'll be back with more NFL content very shortly. So be sure to check in back on the Cover 2 Zone, and we'll see you soon.